Now, all this was kicked into high gear this morning when the House Oversight Committee Democrats released 3 emails turned over by the Epstein estate that mentioned Donald Trump. Those emails were obtained thanks to a subpoena back in August. Now, I should tell you, we have not verified the allegations in any of these emails. But there is, at least on first read, second read, and third, some genuinely appalling stuff in there. Like this one from April of 2011, it's an exchange between Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, his longtime confidant, and the only other person ever tried and convicted for aiding in his sex trafficking, a woman who multiple victims say was instrumental in victimizing them. Epstein writes, I want you to realize the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Redacted victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, ending with a cryptic police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. The White House has since confirmed the victim mentioned here is the late Virginia Roberts Giuffre. Maxwell responds, I have been thinking about that. Now, one thing to point out here, back in July when Trump's former criminal defense attorney turned deputy attorney general at DOJ, right, number 2 at DOJ, Todd Blanche, met one-on-one with Maxwell. Remember when they were like desperately trying to put out this fire? And so he went for a 2-day-long interview with Maxwell. She told Blanche that Trump was not close friends with Epstein. In fact, she didn't recall seeing Trump in Epstein's house.
I don't know Epstein's, if he had, whatever the nature of the president's friendship, if you will, or however you want to define that with Epstein, I was never witness. I think they were friendly, like people are in social settings. I don't think they were close friends, or I certainly never witnessed the president in any of, I don't recall ever seeing him in his house, for instance.
Now, it's very possible Maxwell was telling the truth there, that she never actually saw Trump at Epstein's house. But at the most generous, it seems clear she made a misrepresentation, right? A deflection to the deputy attorney general in that meeting. Since in that 2011 email, Epstein talks about having Trump over for hours, which Maxwell said she has, quote, been thinking about. There's also this from the second day of Blanche's meeting with Maxwell about her visiting the spa at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort.
I believe I said that I couldn't think of anybody who I may have asked from Mar-a-Lago, but then I realized that I was, the allegation at least is that I met in Mar-a-Lago, so I felt that I needed to address that.
Definitely has said that she was working at Mar-a-Lago and that you received a treatment from her at some point, and that you recruited her to meet Mr. Epstein. Right. Do you know affirmatively whether that's true or false, or do you just not have a memory either way? I
really don't believe it's true, but I know that I did go to spas, and if I met someone, I did ask if they're home, so I don't, in the realms of possibility, it could have, but I have no memory of it, and I don't believe that it's how it went down.
But in a 2019 email exchange between Epstein and author Michael Wolff, also released today, Epstein addresses the reports that Trump asked him to resign as a member of Mar-a-Lago after his 2009 sweetheart deal. Epstein writes, Trump said he asked me to resign, never a member ever. Of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. What did he know about the girls? Why did he ask her to stop? Ask her to stop? Ask her to stop, because he knew about the girls. This revelation was written just 5 months before Epstein's arrest and about 6 months before his death. He died, of course, in Department of Justice facility, Bureau of Prisons, while Donald Trump was president. In response to all this, Republicans dumped 23,000 pages of documents, which include even more emails from Epstein, like this one from 2015 when Trump was running for the Republican nomination. A then New York Times reporter wrote to Epstein, now everyone coming to me thinking I have juicy info on you and Trump, to which Epstein replied, would you like photos of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen? Okay. It is unclear if anything was in fact sent to that New York Times reporter. But all of this, these revelations today, and people are still going through these emails, culminated in White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt fending off all sorts of questions at the press briefing today.
Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim? these emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong.
In the interest of transparency, why not just go ahead, release the full files on Epstein, get this all over with?
This administration has done more with respect to transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein than any administration ever. This administration has done more than any, and it just shows how this is truly a manufactured hoax by the Democrat Party. Perhaps you will see him when he signs the bill to reopen the federal government. So stay tuned on plans for that. Thank you, everyone.
Harry Litman served as Deputy Assistant Attorney General, Department of Justice. Joyce Vance is a former U.S. Attorney, and they join me now. First, Harry, just to sort of identify what we're looking at here, these appear to be emails that were, I guess, in the possession of the estate of Jeffrey Epstein, since presumably they have access to his files. By the way, what you're seeing there is a roll call on that vote to reopen the government. You see there's two Democratic defections there, two Democrats voting yes. We're expecting this to pass. We're, of course, keep our eyes on that because that will be a big development. So, Harry, these were emails in the possession of the estate that they turned over pursuant to a subpoena from the committee. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Comer was maneuvered into serving that subpoena. But look, what aren't they? None of them, not a page, is part of the mother lode, the 300,000 pages or so that the DOJ possesses. So they're just a taste of a much, much larger pile.
What strikes you in these emails here? I mean, obviously, we've highlighted a few of them. There seems to be, like we saw with the birthday card book, in which Trump had this very kind of, ribbing tone where wink, wink, nudge, nudge about, age, and age is just a number and every day a beautiful secret, that this sort of Epstein seems to be quite consistent that Donald Trump knew what he was up to.
Not just Epstein, everyone goes to him because that's what they think of him. But I think we can just take Epstein out of it, and there is still quite a lot of incendiary material. And let's stipulate, Chris, this isn't beyond a reasonable doubt. Right. This is the political landscape and what we learned. The number one email to me is the one you cited that seems a sort of innocuous conversation. But in it, first, he says that Trump was at the house for many hours with Virginia Giuffre. And what is Maxwell saying? Not really, or gosh, I didn't know that. I have been thinking about that. To me, that's really strong evidence that, of course, she knows about this, knows about the allegations, knows about his involvement. And I don't want to steal Joyce's thunder. I'm sure we'll both be talking. But what that brings home to me is what Blanche's interview. It is absolute. It's not malpractice, it's malfeasance. He did have these emails, and what he did was steer carefully around them so that she would say, this is what I witnessed and what I didn't, to give the best possible impression for Donald Trump and not the people he works for. And one thing that says to me is, I think you're right. She's tried to tack to this is what I witnessed or not. But that means what we really want to know is, what did she know as she knew this? She needs to be questioned more about exactly that. And Blanche studiously avoided it.